Good afternoon and welcome to the Fernbridge Farm podcast. It's been a long time since I've done a podcast. It is June 11th. We are through lambing season and we are moving on to grazing season. We're fully in grazing season and things are going well here on the farm. It was pretty busy during lambing season. A lot going on, but we're kind of moving into another time where actually we do a lot of educational farm experiences here on the farm. I actually did one this morning to a lovely couple from New York City, and they enjoyed learning about the sheep and the wool processing and spinning and just fiber processing in general, and farming and husbandry, and so it was a lot of fun. They would love to move to Vermont or a more rural area anyway and do something similar where they have animals. But anyway, I'm getting way ahead of myself. Like I said, welcome to the Fernbridge Farm podcast. I am Kelly, and I am the farmer shepherdess, kind of wear a lot of different hats around here. I've been doing a lot of knitting lessons lately, and I teach knitting and spinning and crochet, and so I do a little bit of everything, and gardening. We're in big time gardening season too. So anyway, you can find the farm out on social media. We're on Facebook and Instagram, and our website is fernbridgefarm.com. And so if you need to contact us, you can contact us there. You can leave comments down below, and I do try to get back to those. It's been a little crazy, and I haven't been as good about getting back to them, but I will eventually see them. If it's more urgent, go to the website and contact me through the contact form on the website, and then I can get back to you that way. And so I post a lot of sheepy pictures on the Instagram page. If you're interested in more of the knitting content, I do post most of that on my personal Instagram, so you can find that at Kelly O Spins, and also on Ravelry, I'm Kelly Spins. No O on Ravelry, just Kelly Spins. So if you want to see a lot of the knitting projects, that's where the knitting projects will be, is on Ravelry. I try to keep up with them, although right now the ones I'm going to show you are not on Ravelry, but I'll put them on before this podcast goes up so that you can find all the details on my projects there, because I will link to them in show notes that way, and you'll see a link as soon as I get show notes up. You'll see a link down below the video on YouTube, and you can click on that, and that'll take you to the show notes, which will give you the additional information on the yarns I use, the patterns, anything like that. So I'm gonna try to keep it all in one place. So I've got a lot to talk about. Hopefully I won't talk your ear off today. I've been kind of doing things, well, since it's been so long since I did a podcast last, a lot of time has passed, so I've got a lot of irons in the fire, I guess. So I will talk about, I've got a separate segment that I just filmed before sitting down here, and it is out in the barn with the sheep, and I was mauled by the little lambs. They all came piling in and were jumping all over me. I'm probably looking a mess, but it's just, little mud and sheep poop, I guess. They do love to climb all over me, so because their moms don't generally let them climb all over them. Some of the moms are a little bit more tolerant, but anyway, so I've got it from the barn segment that I'm going to talk about. I've got 3 knitting projects I'm going to talk about. Oh, I forgot my one other thing. I'll bring that for the next podcast. That something new that I just recently acquired. So I'll save that for the next podcast so that I have something new, and it'll maybe get me doing the podcast a little bit more regular for you. And I've got a couple books, one that I finished, one that I'm in the process of reading. They're ones that you may have already come across, but I thought I would talk a little bit about those as well. And then I'm going to show you, I think I've shown you most of what I've got left in our own shop, but we'll have a bunch of new wool coming soon. I just dropped some off at the mill last month, so I will of course keep you informed when that comes back. So we'll have quite a bit of yarn coming from that batch. So without further ado, I will insert the video from just a little bit ago when I was out in the barn. I introduced you to the lambs from this year, which if you follow us on Instagram, you've probably already seen most of them, but the video is really fun because they're doing their little lammy antics, which when people visit the farm, they're not always as crazy as just when I'm out there because they're so used to me. They really like to walk all over me while I'm out there and just surround me and jump off of my lap. They climb up on my lap and jump off, and they just have a grand old time. So so I'll go ahead and insert that here, and you can have fun watching all of their little lammy antics and getting to meet everyone. I think, does everyone make an appearance? I think most all of the lambs make an appearance in the video, so hopefully you'll get to see them all, but I will do more video from the barn too. So they grow so quickly, so it's I like to have some of the video out there so that you can see them as they grow, and their colors change and just their faces change, and you know, their attitudes change. Everything changes with them, and it's such a, you know, from the beginning of summer till the end of summer, it's the pretty dramatic change in the way they look and the way they act. So I'll have to do some snippets throughout the summer so that you can kind of watch them grow with me. So without further ado, here is the footage from the farm. Oh, everybody's going to come in. So this is little Tammy here to my left, and this is her sister Trudy, and they are two of the lambs that were born here on the farm this spring. And little Jagger, a little ram lamb right here, is pickpocketing, trying to steal my phone from my back pocket. And this is Iger. Iger is another little ram lamb that was born on the farm. So we had nine lambs born on the farm. We had 2 rams and 7 ewes. And I'll probably get to show you most of them. I have been posting pictures of them on Instagram. And and this is Peggy here. So Peggy is one of Pearl's twin ewe lambs. And Trudy, who is super friendly and tiny, her and her sister Tammy were born to Tara. And Iger was born to Edelweiss, and he was a single, and he's a big boy. He was one of the biggest lambs born on the farm this spring. He was 7.4 pounds. The only one that beat him was Polonia, and she'll probably come in, she's quite friendly, and she was 7.5 pounds. So this is actually Penny over here, that my hand's on top of, hiding behind Iger. She is Peggy's sister, and Peggy's right here. So they look very similar. Penny's a little bit lighter colored. Trudy really wants my attention. She actually wants all the cookies. They really enjoy animal crackers, and she loves her animal crackers. Oh, and the two that I didn't think were going to come in are here. So Willa and Whimsy are here. Whimsy is quite a bit more shy. She's up towards the camera now, but this is Willa, and Willa loves her tummy rubs. She wasn't so sure at the beginning, but she has now decided that she does indeed like lots of tummy rubs, and cookies. Her mama, Willow, who's right here next to me, is one of the biggest biggest cookie monsters around. Oh, that's my finger. Hi, Pen. So Penny and Peggy love to jump all over me, and Trudy, you can see too. But of course, I have cookies at the moment. I had cookies to try to get them in the barn. Here you go. Good girl. Is that it? So the babies, I still break the cookies up for the babies. They will take a whole cookie, but they don't really know what to do with it. The babies really like to eat them, but they don't know how to eat a whole cookie. They try to chew them, but they are actually, especially the younger ones, are still, they're teething right now, so they're working on getting their molars in. They have their front baby teeth. So sheep have just in the front, they only have teeth on the bottom. And then they have a hard palate on the top. And they use that for tearing the grass. Hi, sweets. I'm almost out of cookies. Once you run out of cookies, then you know who really just enjoys lots of attention and pets. Here's Polonia. So Polonia was the biggest lamb born on the farm, and she was a single, and she was born to Peregrine. And Peregrine's sister Pearl is eyeing the camera, and if the camera starts shaking, it's because the baby's over there investigating. They love anything new and interesting. Don't you? I know. Polonia likes to jump too. She's a lot like her mom. Her mom is kind of a mischievous girl, and always loves to untie shoes and pick pockets and chew on any jewelry or anything you're wearing. So she definitely follows after mom for that. So here are Peggy and Penny. These two are little sisters, and they're Pearl's. Hi, Polonia. They are Pearl's twin ewes. And they were actually born, well, some friends were visiting, and Penny is named after one of those friends who was visiting. So I name my sheep, my lambs, using the first letter of their mom's name, so Pearl with a P. These guys are Penny and Peggy. And then little Polonia here, her mom was Peregrine, so we needed another P name for her. And then, so Trudy and her sister Tammy are named for T because their mom is Tara. And Iger, the little ram lamb right in front there, his mom is Edelweiss, and she actually came from another farm and she was already bred. So he's going to stay on the farm as a little breeding ram once he gets old enough. So we will use him for our breeding program here. Hi, I know I'm not giving you the right attention, am I? So he doesn't have genetics related to pretty much anybody else. He does have the same dad as Willa and Whimsy. So we won't use him for breeding to them, but everybody else is not related to him, except for his mom, which of course we wouldn't breed back to her. So that's really nice. Oh, hello, Pumpkin. I know, there. So they actually really do enjoy sitting with me. They love to have their chests and bellies petted, and they love also just climbing all over and enjoying jumping off. So they are kind of wound up. So I did a farm experience this morning. So they got to meet some new people from New York City, and so they're a little bit wound up because they've been napping the rest of the afternoon out in the field on the new pasture. So they love it when I come out and sit with them, because they try to climb me as high as they can get and then jump off, because that's an awful lot of fun. So our farm, we're very flat where we are. We're right in the Champlain Valley. We're very close to the lake. We're only about a mile in from the lake. in Vermont, between Burlington and Middlebury, and so we're in a very low-lying area, and we don't have any rocks here. A lot of farms you'll see sometimes they have rocks for their sheep to climb on and jump all over. So I have these big feed tubs, which is what I'm sitting on, and they usually are climbing on this and jumping off of it and liking to push each other off of it. But since I'm sitting on it now, they're climbing on me instead. So we had a pretty crazy lambing season this year. And Peggy, hey, oh my goodness, Pen, hi, sweetie. So we started, our first lambs were born at the end of March, and so the oldest lambs on the farm are Willow and Whimsy, and they're now 2 months old, a little over 2 months old actually. These guys are actually born at the beginning of May, but they're quite big. They're pretty good size when they were born. Oh my goodness, you guys are wound up. I guess I shouldn't have given them cookies beforehand. Huh? Do you have a sugar rush now? They were born, and their labor went really smoothly. Willow, their mom, had a fairly easy delivery, and then and gosh, who was next? I've lost track of the order of everybody that was born, but these guys, they had a fairly easy delivery. Mom was a first-time mom, but she did really well. This little girl, so little Trudy, she decided that she was going to come backwards, so she came back feet first, and I did have to help Mom with her. And then when her sister came, her sister decided to come full breech, so she was butt first, and somehow Tara delivered her breeched sister Tammy, no problem. But this little one, since she was first and holding things up, needed a little bit of help. So she got some help coming into the world, didn't you? You did. But Mom did great, and she's a great mom. She was another first-time mom. And the only other one, Peregrine, who had Polonia, who was the big girl, she was 7.5 pounds when she was born. She needed some help too. She was a normal presentation, but she was so big that that I did assist Mom with that birth. She was doing fine, but I did have to kind of readjust her front legs as they were coming out, because she's such a big girl. Her joints were, the way her head and her front feet were coming, they are all kind of coming together rather than her front legs coming a little bit more first. So she didn't she didn't have as much room to come through. So I kind of just readjusted things a little bit, and then she came right out and came out yelling and said hello to the world, which is kind of her personality. These girls are kind of crazy and wild now, but they actually, a week after they were born, they both had a fever that kept spiking, and so I had to have the vet come out from them, and they never could quite determine what was going on with them, but it was an infection of some sort. We do treat their umbilical cords with iodine so that they don't get, they call it joint ill or navel ill, and so it didn't seem like it was something like that, but you never know what, sometimes things that can go on. So they got a little bit of antibiotics when they were about a week and a half old. and they seem to be thriving now, as you can see. So, but I was pretty worried about little Penny for a while. She was not doing great, but she's bounced right back. As you can see, she's literally bouncing. And then the only other sad thing that we had happen was Jenny, who was the mom, the ewe who had Jensen and Juniper last year on the farm. They were the first lambs born on our farm. She ended up having triplets, but unfortunately 2 of them were stillborn. One of hers survived, so Jagger, he was just in here not too long ago. He is thriving. I think he was the most well-developed and out of the 3. So they were pretty good sized lambs. Jenny's pretty small frame, so she actually didn't quite go full term. She was she delivered a couple days early, and I think, because she's such a small mom, she couldn't quite carry all 3 of them to the end. So, and lambs do so much of their development, especially of their pulmonary system, their lungs and their GI tract in the last 6 weeks or so of gestation, that if they don't go quite to full term, they don't thrive. So unfortunately, I think that's kind of what happened with her, and the babies were stillborn. But her little guy Jagger is doing great, and she's a great mom. She's so protective of him, and even the lambs that she had last year, Jensen and Juniper, she was such a good mom with them. So, but other than that, it was kind of crazy. It was it was a crazy month plus. About a month and a half it was spread over, because the 2 sheep that I got that were bred off the farm that I bought after they were bred, they were bred earlier than the sheep that we bred here on the farm. So that's why our lambing season was a little bit longer, because they went early, and then my sheep, some of them could go a little bit longer. So that's why we had a long lambing season, but overall we're very happy with everybody that we've got. And we're gonna keep, I think we're gonna keep pretty much everybody from this year's crop. They have some really lovely fleeces. These 2 little girls have just some beautiful crimp in here, so I think they're gonna produce some really wonderful yarn, aren't you? Yes. So they're super sweet kiddos, aren't you? And everybody else here on the farm is doing well. They've been out on pasture for quite some time now. We had some really warm weather early on in the season, so we were actually able to get everybody out on pasture, I think like 2 weeks earlier than last year. So, which is great, because then, it saves us from having to feed hay. We do still feed hay to the moms and lambs when they come in at night, so we don't have livestock guardians on our farm, not yet anyway, but so we just want to make sure we keep the little ones safe at night. So we bring all the moms and lambs in, and so they get some hay at night, just so they have something to munch on. And the moms are still getting grain, because they still are nursing the lambs. So they are getting some extra calories in the form of grain, some extra protein. And but you can definitely see a difference. The moms are certainly letting them nurse a lot less than they had been. So so these guys, we have a little they call it a creep feed area, set up over here. You can't really see it very well. You can't see it at all from there because it's kind of behind where the camera is. But it's an area that only the lambs can access. The openings are small, so the ewes can't go through. So these guys can have access to grain, their own grain, because otherwise the moms would eat it all. And the dishes are down lower, so they can reach them and just have their own little lammy dining room. So yeah, so they're doing really well, and everybody, the yearlings and the sheep that didn't get bred are just kind of next door in their own pasture, and they're doing really well. They're happy. Everybody got moved to new pastures, so we do rotational grazing, and everybody gets moved pretty frequently to new grass, which is good for them. It's good for the pastures. It's good for parasite management, all those good things. So they're all out enjoying it. And today's nice. It's actually getting a little bit cloudy. It started to sprinkle a little bit, so I moved back inside. I was outside, but I didn't want the camera and everything to get rained on. So we're inside now. They're a little bit jumpy. Trudy's coming back. Here comes Trudy. Hi, Trudy. We call her Trudy with attitude. Yeah, you're Trudy with attitude. She's so funny. She's small and feisty, and she's usually the one kind of like instigating things. But right now, it seems Peggy and Pearl are being the instigators. They don't want Miss Trudy in here. They want me all to themselves, I guess. It's so funny. Sometimes we'll have all the lambs. They'll be completely surrounding us, and I need extra hands to give everybody some attention. Yeah. Oh, Trudy, don't chew on that. She's chewing on the tripod. It's a good thing she can't reach the microphone, because the microphone's up above the camera, and it has one of those fuzzy windproof covers on it. And she would certainly pull it off, wouldn't she? She would. She'd run away with it. So Trudy, it's funny, we weighed everybody not too long ago, and she was about 15 and a half pounds. So she's just a little tiny tot. The biggest Eiger, he was 39 pounds, so there's quite a range of difference in their sizes. Trudy's mom is pretty small too. She's on the smaller side for Shetlands. And so it's interesting because some of the different farms, you'll see some farms will have a little bit of the more petite Shetlands, and some of the farms will have some of the bigger, leggier Shetlands, and I've got some of each. So it's kind of interesting to see the pairings that we get. So, I should go inside and finish doing the podcast. Yep. Now that we've introduced you guys. Oh my goodness. No biting my hair. That's not nice. Hi, Mama. It's so funny, when we first turned all of the the ewes and lambs outside. The moms are so protective and they want to stay with the babies all the time. And now that they've been going outside for quite a while, all of the babies pretty much group together and all the moms group together. And the moms are like, you kids go play, have fun, we're gonna go eat now. And a lot of times one of the moms kind of takes on the duty of babysitter, and so if all the lambs are running around or they all come back to the barn, one of the moms will come back with them and just kind of keep an eye on things. So it's really interesting watching the flock dynamics between them. And it's funny, it's a lot of times Peregrine, who's Polonia's mom, and she's probably the one that acts most like a lamb still. She likes to run around and, you know, kick up her heels, and she's very kind of mischievous, which I kind of love that anyway. So it's funny that she's the one that a lot of times hangs out with the lambs. Not always. Jenny's here, so Jenny is Jagger's mom that I was just mentioning before, and she comes back to the barn quite a bit. She's an older ewe. We probably won't breed her. We may breed her again this year, but then that'll probably be the last breeding that we do with her, because she's getting up there in age. Peggy, you girls don't have to be rude to little Trudy. She's a good girl. I know you like all the pets. But she likes to kind of keep an eye. She's very vocal, you can hear her, and she's always calling to Jagger. She always wants to know where he is, and she's funny. She a lot of times will call in the group if she wants to be inside, and she doesn't want to miss anything. She'll start bawling until everybody comes into the barn, and she'll do the same thing if she goes out to pasture. If everybody's kind of like chilling out in the barn, she'll go out to the pasture and she'll start calling until everybody comes. So it's funny just how they interact with each other. So now she's trying to call everybody in from the field, and she's a little bit mad because I'm inside the barn, and I think she wants to come in the barn. So I'll wrap it up here and let her have her barn space back. So I hope you enjoyed the footage of the lambs going crazy. Penny and Peggy were absolutely crazy while I was out there. It's funny because, you know, Peggy especially will jump all over me. She like throws herself. She just comes running full blast and like launches herself at me. So it was kind of funny that Penny was in there too, doing that. And she will some, but she's a little bit more reserved than her sister. And Trudy is always, she's one of the first ones to come up and greet me and anybody. So she's really cute. I mentioned earlier I had done educational farm experience, farm visit, and she's quite a little greeter. She will come up and introduce herself to people, and she's usually one of the first ones to do so. She knows she'll get animal crackers. She loves her animal crackers, but you have to break them. For her, she's so tiny. You have to break them into little bite-sized pieces, because otherwise she won't eat them. She's like, nope, that's just too much for me. I need them broken up. So she's really funny that way. But it's a lot of fun. We enjoy having little Miss Trudy around on the farm. So I'm going to jump right into things that I'm working on and show you a little bit of that. I don't typically knit a whole lot this time of year. I knit as much as I can. I actually spin more in the summer than I knit, but I do like to knit too. It's nice and portable, and I can take it places. I'm doing a lot of gardening. I planted, if you saw any of the pictures from earlier this year, I started a bunch of tomato plants earlier, tomatoes and peppers, and we have 3 garden areas. We've got a new area for this year, and it's a 50 by 50 foot space. We had the chickens on it all winter, so they fertilized it all winter, and then we planted a bunch of stuff out there. So we've got our potatoes out there, we've got corn, we've got dry beans, so like pinto beans and cannellini beans, that kind of thing, peas, tomatoes, peppers. We've got a lot of potatoes. What else is out there? Broccoli, Brussels sprouts. I don't know. Lambing season kind of pushed some of that stuff back, so I don't know if my broccoli and Brussels sprouts will do well this year because I got such a late start with them. But I threw them in anyway. I had them, so we'll see how they do. And then I'm going to do some more carrots, kale, spinach, lettuce, that kind of stuff out there too. And then we have a high tunnel, and the majority of the tomatoes and peppers are in the high tunnel. So that's a 12 by 20 foot space. And then our original garden was is 8 raised beds, so there are 4 by 8 raised beds. And I've got carrots, beets, garlic. I planted all my garlic out there last year. All my herbs are out there. There's kale, cucumbers, zucchini out there. So there's a lot of different things out there too. So we've got quite a bit of garden space, and I've been working on that a lot. And our soil is really good for growing tomatoes. We end up doing really well with our tomatoes, which I'm very happy with because I love tomatoes and I could eat them all summer long, and do eat them all summer long for lunch or whatever. So yeah, I really enjoy tomatoes, and I'm going to can a bunch this year. I just got a new pressure canner, and I've only used it just once so far. I did some chicken stock, and it worked well, so I will be doing a lot of sauce, because we eat a lot of tomato-based sauces and soups and things like that, so I'll can some whole tomatoes and salsa, and so hopefully my peppers, and I did do one jalapeno plant, because I haven't done a whole lot. I haven't done great with peppers before, so but my pepper plants are looking really good, and I'm trying a jalapeno plant this year, so I'm hoping that it goes really well, because then we'll have all the ingredients basically for salsa. Oh, because I have onions out there too, and the big I'm pointing that away like you guys know, but I have that's the big garden, the 50 by 50 garden is out that way, and so I do have onions out there that I started inside earlier this spring. So yeah, so I've been doing a lot of gardening. I've got some blueberry bushes I added this year. Not really expecting any fruit from those, but because they're wee little ones, but they'll be nice to eventually have some blueberries from. And so yeah, so that's the garden. So for knitting, I decided to do the Woolly Thistle did a hap along. So a hap, if you're not familiar with it, is a traditional Scottish Shetland shawl. The full haps are square, and they're usually worn folded in half and then worn crossways across the shoulders and then tucked into the belt. They're oftentimes given to babies. They're used for swaddling and baby blankets, and then they had them as they got older as well, but they're typically a garter stitch square panel, and then there's a decorative lace or scallop border edge. So I knew I was not going to probably finish in time. I think it was like a 6-week knit along, and I started on the knit along day, which was back in May. But I didn't get very far, so I will show you. So I'm doing, so you could pick any hat pattern that you wanted. I did decide to do the Hansel hap, which is a Gudrun Johnson pattern, and I'm doing the full one. And so this is my main color, and of course I stopped in the middle of a row, so, you know. So it is knit from corner to corner. The center panel, center square is. So this is my main color, and then I'll show you my accent colors. So the accent colors don't actually come in until the border. So that's what it's going to look like. Whoops. Not exactly, but those are the colors that are going to be in it. So I am using the Jameson and Smith 2-ply. 2-ply? Yeah, it's 2-ply. The jumper weight yarn. That is actually Shetland. Shetland wool. I know I have my own Shetlands, but I don't, unless I spin it, I don't have any that is fingering weight, so I bought some. So I will work on this and keep working on that. The nice thing with that is it's the center panel is just so easy. It's just garter stitch, so it's kind of fun to just have a project I can pick up and put down, and doesn't matter how long it's been, and I can just work on it. So that is really nice. The other thing that I've been working on, I've been making samples from my own yarn, so it's really fun to be able to work with yarn from my flock. And I am working on Irwin. It's from Knitty, so it's a free pattern, so knitty.com. And let me see if I can show you. And I'll also post a picture or linked in show notes. So, there we go. Okay. So there it is. So it's got cables in the yoke. And I dyed some of the Shetland that I had. I actually had dyed it in some indigo, but the indigo bath was pretty weak, and I wasn't super happy with the way the color turned out on the yarn. So I actually over-dyed it, and I over-dyed it with acid dyes. I use greener shades acid dyes because they don't have any heavy metals in them. And this light is actually picking, you can see the cables pretty well. So I have finished all of the cables, and I separated for the sleeves, and now it's just a whole lot of stockinette, which is also really nice where I'm at right now, because I can just sit down and kind of cruise through. So the pattern itself has buttons on the front. I'm going to put a zipper in. I've found that sweaters with zippers, I wear so much more than sweaters with buttons, and I don't really know why. I had actually toyed with the idea on Ravelry. Someone had done like a Henley, and they had put just a zipper in, you know, like a quarter zip in, and I had thought about doing that, but I think I'm not past the point of where I could do that if I wanted to, but I think I'm going to do a full zipper in it, because I really like the flexibility of being able to just fully unzip it and take it off, but it's easier for me than buttons. Sometimes I catch them on things because I'm just, you know, on the move doing stuff, so I really do like having zipper, because it acts more like a pullover, but then but you can also just unzip it and take it off and not have to pull it over your head. And it's just a little added detail too with the zipper if you get something kind of interesting. So I do have to get a zipper for it, but I won't do that until it's all done, so that I know how long of a zipper I need. Of course, I can always get one longer and cut it, but I always make my sweaters longer. I talk about that quite a bit because I've got a really long torso, so I always add extra length. So I am alternating my skeins because when I dye them, the pot that I have is 20 quart. It's like a canning style pot. I just did a water bath, so I can't put all the skeins in that I needed for the sweater. So the color variation is just a little bit different, and because I over-dyed over some things that had been dyed with indigo, I wanted to make sure that the you know, the colors, and there is some variation in the skeins. You can see these tiny little micro stripes on it, and that's exactly why I'm alternating skeins with this. So I'm doing 2 rows of from one skein and then 2 rows from another skein. And I don't mind doing it. It's, easy enough to do. And I'll be much happier with a finished piece than seeing the first quarter of it being one color and then seeing like a really harsh line where I add the new skein in. So I can't wait to see this all blocked, because right now the cables are kind of bunched up a little bit, but this yarn relaxes really nicely after it's been blocked. So I can't wait to kind of keep moving on that and get that done. Because I'll tell you about an event that I'm going to take part in where I will want that on display. And then the other thing that I'm working on is also with some of my yarn. I am doing, if you've been with me for a little bit, I did a pattern called the Limitless Cowl. That was 2 years ago, I think I did that. I wrote that pattern. I wrote it specifically for a class I was teaching where I knew the students in the class were going to be kind of anywhere from a pretty basic beginner to a more advanced beginner. So it's a pattern where it's kind of a choose your own adventure. So there's 3 different versions of the pattern. There's one that's super basic, works with only one color, and is great for a very beginner knitter. And then it kind of goes up from there. That each version adds a different levels of or technique to it. So I'm doing version 3, which has some little purl stitches in it. So I'm gonna make up, I'm using this wool is Shetland from my sheep. So I'm using just a plain light gray natural undyed skein, and then it's still on the bobbin. I'm using yarn that I hand spun. So I've got a lot of hand spun that is not actually from my sheep, but it's kind of from my curated collection. It's mostly all New England yarns from indie dyers around New England that I've collected over the years, and I'm spinning it and selling it in my shop. And I'm going to probably put together some kits to do more of these, and because I think that they'll be really fun as kits for people to do. So it'll include the solid and then a hand spun skein, or at least a mini skein. I like the way this is turning out. So that's the way that pattern looks, and it's a cowl. I think I mentioned that as in the title of it, I guess. It's the Limitless Cowl. So that's the hand spun. So it's going to kind of go between pretty turquoisey, deep navy blues, and kind of like this peridot green and dark like forest greens. So I think it'll be pretty, really pretty when it's done. I'm hoping I have enough of this gray, because this is all I have left of the gray. Some of the folks that visited earlier today, they bought all of the last skeins of the natural color that I had. So I'll make it work with this, and those are the knitting projects that I've got going on right now. I have been doing some spinning. I don't really have any easily that I can show you other than that bobbin there. But I will definitely next time talk a little bit more about the spinning that I've been doing. So let me talk to you next about the books I've been reading, and then I'll talk to you a little bit about what's in shop and what's coming up for in the shop. So the books that I'm reading, well, the one that I finished is the Beatrix Potter biography. Says Beatrix Potter, A Life in Nature by Linda Lear, and it's a pretty lengthy book. I enjoyed it. So the first, I don't know, first at least third of the book was a little bit of a slog. It was interesting, but you learn more about mushrooms than you probably ever thought you wanted to know about mushrooms. So she, she illustrated a lot, and so in her early life, she did a lot of mushroom illustrations, and so there's a lot of information about all the scientific stuff and her researching the mushrooms in the beginning. And so that part was a little bit slow for me, but I did really enjoy the book. And then towards the end, it talks about her farms. She owned a lot of land and helped to preserve some of the heritage breed, the Herdwicks, in England. So it's really interesting, and there's some great pictures in some of her illustrations, and you learn a lot about her life, and the times too. It was the Victorian times, so it's interesting to see it from her perspective. So if you're looking for kind of a nonfiction biography, it's a fun book, and not super knitting related, but it definitely is interesting if you're into natural history and sheep and British things, and so I like it. Or if you're a fan of Peter Rabbit and Benjamin Buddy too, it's interesting hearing her talk about the different places, when she was vacationing in Scotland and different places in England, and her inspirations behind some of the places and characters and things like that. So some of that was really interesting too. And then the book that I am in the process of reading, I just started it not too long ago, I'm not very far into it, is This Golden Fleece, and it's by S.R. Ratter, and it's a really interesting journey that the author takes all around the UK, and she's learning about kind of traditional knitting projects that are very specific to I guess the British Isles, but not necessarily, but a lot of it is definitely about British Isle knitting, Fair Isle sweaters and Guernsey sweaters, and so it's really interesting. There's a lot of really good information about, goes into a lot of detail about why certain projects are linked so strongly to certain areas and sheep breeds, and so I'm finding this very, very interesting, and I read a little bit every night. Usually I'm so tired by the time I fall into bed that I don't read very much, but so it's been a little bit slower for me, but I really have been enjoying this. I like her writing style, so I would encourage you to check this one out too. And this one definitely is about knitting, and so if you like knitting history, and that kind of thing, I would definitely recommend this book, and I can definitely talk about it more when I get done with it, but so far I am really enjoying it, because she's kind of knitting her way. She's doing this like knitted tour of the historical British patterns and knitwear and influences, so I am really enjoying that. So that's kind of what I've got on the books, and then so the next thing I'll talk about a little bit of what I've got left in the store. So I've only got 7 skeins of our own Shetland wool in the store, and it's all stuff that is naturally dyed, that I dyed last year. So I've got 3 skeins of this kind of fun, it's kind of like this orangey red color, and I hope the color shows up well. It's always hard to tell, but I think the lighting's pretty good. So I used madder cochineal, and then I used iron as well. So iron saddens colors, it kind of brings them down, dulls them a little bit, and so that I really like this. It's kind of a unique color. So I have 3 skeins of this left. I have 2 skeins of the logwood. So logwood makes this really pretty purple. So I've got 2 of those left, and then I have 2 skeins of cochineal left. And so the color difference is this. This one was over dyed on the white yarn, this guy was, and then this one was over dyed on the gray. So you can see there is just a slight color difference. The gray one, well, at least when I'm looking at it on the camera, the gray one just looks a little bit darker and just a little bit different color. So so that's the difference between those. So if it is showing up on your screen as well as a little bit of a color difference, that's why. So I write that on the tag. So this is the cochineal on white, and that's the cochineal on gray. So those are the 7 skeins that I have left of the sheep's wool from our sheep. I did mention I just dropped off a bunch of wool. I think it ended up being almost 40 pounds. I think it was about 40 pounds of wool to Junction Fiber Mill in White River Junction. And they're going to do the same style of yarn. So this is a 2-ply. And it's kind of like a heavy DK light worsted, which I find to be a really versatile yarn. And it kind of makes the most of it. And I wanted a yarn, because I don't have a lot of fleeces right now, I wanted a yarn that that would be kind of a workhorse, all around yarn that you know, you can make sweaters and mittens and hats and kind of everything from. And so I'm having the same size yarn done again, because right now I just don't have enough to support doing a fingering weight and a bulky and this and that, you know, because my I just don't have the quantity of fleeces right now. So so yeah, this first batch was from our sheep when I had just 9 sheep, and right now with the lambs that we had, we're and we also brought in some new sheep too. We're up to 28 sheep, so we're definitely growing. And so I do have those, and then I've got a bunch of hand spun in the store right now too. So like I mentioned, this yarn is not from the wool itself is not from our sheep, but it is from New England dyers. And I believe all of these colorways are now up on the website. So here are some of them. Kind of fun. And then, oh, it's funny, all the greens kind of stay together. And here are some more. So if you are interested in doing the cowl, I can certainly help you put some colors together. If you want to do a solid and then one of the hand spun, you'll definitely have enough with the hand spun 1 skein, and then you'll have enough with 1 skein of the solid. You'll actually have extra of the hand spun. I'll throw in the pattern for free. So if you do want to do that, just make a note in on your order, and I can do that. I think this one would. I think those would be kind of fun together. Or you could even do, these might be too close, but I think they would be fun too. And what else? There's some good ones. Those would actually be really fun together too. So anyway, there's some fun, different fun options there, and I'm always spinning and adding to the hand spun. And like I mentioned, I'll probably have my wool back. Let's see. Sometime July, August, somewhere in there. So, which will be good. And then I'll have I have quite a bit of darker wool this time, because I've got quite a few dark gray and black sheep. So there's, I mean, I guess I could dye it, but you're not really going to see the color so well. So so I will have quite a bit of that solid dark. I'll have a black, and then I'm curious to see how it's going to come out, but I've got one that'll probably be like a charcoal gray, and then I've got one that's going to be like a it probably will end up a bit like this. It's going to be darker than a cream, because there's a couple darker brown, well, they're not super dark brown, but they're like a medium brown fleece, but a lot of it, the sheep that went into that are more of a cream or white, so, but those darker fleeces will just bring the tone down a little bit, so they'll be heathered, they'll be really lovely, and I can't wait to see those. So those I'll be able to over dye if anybody's interested in specific colors, and I'm happy to always do some custom colors too. So that's kind of what I've got for yarn. I still have some of the spinning the bats that I did. I dyed some of the roving that I have, and then I carded them into bats, and there's some really fun colorways, and so those are on the website if you're looking for some spinning. So we've got Tour de Fleece coming up in July, so that's going to be upon us before too long. So if you're participating in Tour de Fleece, then look at that tail, and you're looking for some fiber. I am also a member of the Livestock Conservancy, and they have the Shave 'em to Save 'em program, and I do have the passport stickers. So if you're not familiar with it, check out the Livestock Conservancy and their Shave 'em to Save 'em program. They have this really fun little passport that you get, and you can order yarn from participating vendors, and they'll give you a sticker to go in your passport, and you can win prizes for doing a certain number of the different breeds, or you can choose to do all of them if you want. And so for Shetlands are on their list of sheep, but I'll put a link into show notes about the Livestock Conservancy and the Shave 'em to Save 'em program, because it's a really interesting program. So I'm happy to include those. So if you are participating in that and you buy 4 ounces of fiber or one of our skeins are 4-ounce skeins of our wool, and you make something with them, then you get your little passport sticker in there. The other thing that I have, I can't remember if I showed these on the last podcast or not, but I have these, I think I might have, but I don't know. I have these fun bags that have pictures of some of our sheep on them. So there's Mama Willow and her little ones, Whimsy and Willa. So they're nice big tote bags. So these are all up on the website too. There's Peregrine when she was just a little one. She has such a sweet little face. And there's Juniper and Sadie on this one. And then little Jensen. He's such a little doll. He's just the sweetest boy. And then this is Tilly. So our sweet Tilly. Oh boy, one of the dogs is going to get tangled in the cords. I think her tail is hitting one of the cords on for the camera. So yeah, so that's what we've got in the store. For events that we've got coming up, Muscle of Yarn is doing some Saturday markets. So every month they're doing a different one. They actually did one today with Fiber Stash, and I didn't make it up there because I had my farm experience this morning, so I didn't get a chance to make it up there because it was Worldwide Knit in Public Day. Happy Worldwide Knit in Public Day. I hope you got to get outside and do some knitting with friends. But they hosted Fiber Stash today for their first market, and then they're going to do one each month. And I signed up for the September market because I'll have my yarn back by then. So I haven't heard back specifically from them, but I'm pretty sure that I'm on the list for the September one. So if you're gonna be in the area and you want to see and touch some of the yarns, then I will, hopefully, I think if all goes to plan, I will be there in September, and with my booth, my new yarns, and selling some more stuff. So I'll have some of my cowl kits made up. I've got spinning kits, so I've got roving still, and I've got that. I think I'm actually going to be doing like an intro drop spindle class at Must Love Yarn to kind of kick off the Tour de Fleece celebrations that they're going to be doing in July. So I think that'll be really fun. So if you are interested in drop spindle, keep an eye out for that. Sign up for Must Love Yarn's newsletter, or follow their social media. They're good about posting on their social media accounts for different events that they've got coming up. And then there's a couple other events that I have applied for, and more towards the end of the summer, late summer, early fall. So if I will keep you posted on those and let you know. And I think that's going to be a wrap for us today. I can't think of anything else that I need to tell you about. But there's always next time, and I will try to get a podcast out much sooner than however many weeks and months it's been since my last one. I got a little bit swamped with lambing and a bunch of other stuff, getting the garden going and things. So, but now I'm doing the farm experiences, and I've been doing a lot of teaching and finishing. I do a lot of finishing work, so if you need sweaters finished, let me know, contact me. I can send you price list and information on that. So I've got quite a few that I've got to get finished up here. And Willie's making his appearance. So he wanted to at least pop in and say hi and bye, right, Willie? Yeah, so reach out and contact me. The contact form on the website is a great way to contact me, and for whether you want lessons or finishing work done, seaming, repairs, that kind of thing. I do a lot of that, and I like doing it. I know a lot of people don't, but I do enjoy doing it. So I'm happy to do that. And yeah, so stay in touch, and I will do my best to get another episode out soon. So I hope you are all doing well. I hope you are enjoying this really great weather. We've been having a really nice stretch of weather lately, kind of in the 70s and cooling down at night, and it's just really enjoyable. I'm not a huge fan of the summer, because I don't do well in really, really hot temperatures, especially when it gets really humid, but so I'm enjoying this kind of really nice moderate temperatures and milder, and though it's been kind of windy, which in the summer I love. In the winter it's not as enjoyable. But anyway, I will stop blathering on now, and I will see you next time. Thanks so much for joining me, and if you have any questions or comments or whatnot, feel free to leave them down below in the comments section, or reach out to me directly through the contact form on the website, and I will talk to you again soon. Thanks. Bye.